Hello everybody and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. A dogman in Jura, France in 2018 and a dog returns home with a human head in its mouth. Now I've been in contact with a wonderful lady from France who has had some strange experiences with the bipedal upright creatures, often referred to as dogmen or werewolves. Now over the last 2 years, Evie has experienced some very strange events and a number of face-to-face encounters. I hope, by sharing these encounters, we can help Evie in her pursuit for answers, whilst also keeping her safe and away from harm. I know many of you are experiencing the same things, and will recognise similar events in Evie's story that will be very similar to your own. This is Evie's account in her own words. Sorry for my poor English. I am French, and English is my second language. I would like to share what happened to me in mid-April of 2018. It was the end of the afternoon and the light was good. I decided to take a little walk in the forest with a friend of mine and my little dog Leo. We chose a place where I parked my car and began to walk in. It didn't take long before I began to feel nervous. As we were walking, we heard a horrible noise. It sounded like doves, but they were not singing. It sounded like they were screaming loudly in fear or as a warning. It was the first time I have heard this noise. I laughed and said to my friend, I feel like they don't want us in the forest for some reason. We pushed on and the path was wide and we walked on a bit further. Suddenly, I noticed something moving down the track to the side of us. I realised it was an animal and I thought it was a very large dog. The colour of it was very black. I was upset and I told my friend I'd rather go back to the car. I didn't want my little dog to cross what I thought was a big dog off the leash. Luckily, I had my dog on his leash and I started to turn around and return to the car. But my friend stayed and watched to see if she could place the rogue dog without an owner. I was walking back for a few minutes when I heard my friend screaming, Evelyn, run, run. Without looking back, I accelerated my pace and I arrived at the car out of breath. I put Leo, my little dog, in the car. Before I got in the car, I looked down the track and I saw a deep black coloured creature walking into the forest away from us. I was so surprised and shocked. I couldn't believe it. I could only see the top part of the animal from the shoulders up. My friend, who joined me at the car, explained to me what she saw. This creature moved by slipping at high speed along the alley. Then it seemed to get its momentum and it straightened up onto its hind legs. My friend told me, and this is what I can confirm, that the creature was over 2 metres tall and it was slipping diagonally onto its right and onto its left before standing up onto its back legs. I think Evie is describing a skating or sliding motion. We couldn't see its eyes at first, and the creature stopped when it saw my friend. They looked at each other for a few seconds. Then the creature decided to turn into the wood. My friend told me it had a dog's head. Its ears were down. This creature had a muscular body, a thick torso and thick thigh, and it was covered with a deep black coat of hairs. We were very shocked and we thought about the event even into the next week. We decided to go back to the forest and see if there was an explanation to all of this, but we didn't notice anything strange that would answer this puzzle on our second visit. And then I told my friend we should try to go back to this place just before nightfall. So we did this a few months ago. It's strange, you see, because when we got out of the car on the evening visit, we immediately felt something was wrong. The atmosphere this time was very different. There was complete silence. No birds or animals. We began to walk in, and after a few minutes I began to feel anxious. I decided to go back, and my friend tried to push on into the trees alone. but she also came running back a short time later. That creature was there again. It was standing in the wood looking at us. I'd not seen the creature this time, thankfully. We would like to be courageous enough to take a picture of the creature to prove to people what we saw. I know that we are not the only ones to have seen the dogman, and we are sure that is what we saw. We learn that someone else saw it as well a few days later. So I tell my friends to be careful if they decide to go into the forest, especially if this forest is abnormally silent. As I do with everyone who comes forward, I asked Eva if she'd ever experienced anything else unusual or unexplained either in this area or at another point in time. And she went on to add, my first encounter with what I think was a dogman took place 10 years ago in a forest located in the east of France. I must first of all say that I've always loved nature. As a child, until I was a teenager, I used to get up early in the morning before everyone else around 6 a.m. and I'd go outside in muffled steps to avoid waking my parents and my brothers. I went for a walk every morning in the wilderness for 2 hours before returning to have breakfast and go to school. So I was used to my solitary walks for a long time. Later, I had to give up this habit because I had to leave to continue my studies as I was a boarder in high school. The years have passed, and in 2009, I'm not sure of the month, as in previous years, I used to go to the forest near Ornans to look for mushrooms. I could go in quite far without ever feeling the least bit of concern. It's a beautiful coniferous forest and a place I love to visit. That week it was August, but this visit felt different to the other times I'd been there. I was nervous without understanding why. My senses were on high alert. The weather was beautiful, but something bothered me without me being able to explain it to myself. Several times I rushed to pick up my mushrooms and I quickly went out of the woods and jumped in the car and drove off quickly. On the way back I said to myself, what's wrong with you? But, I forgot and I came back anyway the next day. I finally understood the reason for my concern. After picking up some mushrooms, I got up and I understood what was bothering me. I realised the woods had no sound. There was total silence. I listened and I felt that my heart was beating hard. Once again, I left the forest quickly. Then one morning, I arrived about 7:30, and it's the best time to go mushroom picking before other people get there and find the best mushrooms. I embarked on a trail that I'd not explored yet. I noticed a dark mass in the middle of the path about 60 metres away, but I could not tell what it was. I thought it was a tree stump, and I started walking while looking at the floor. I picked up some mushrooms and I kept going until I got up and I looked in front of me. I tried to understand what I was seeing. It was not a tree stump. It was obviously an animal, and it was curled up on itself. Its muzzle was resting on its chest. The posture was very strange. It looked like someone crouching, and he was asleep. He slept with his muzzle on his chest. His coat was black-grey, like that of a boar, but darker. And above all, it was not a wild boar. I know what a boar looks like. My companion is a hunter. My heart started beating like crazy, and it was resounding in my ears. I was afraid he would hear it. I started to recoil. But what was incredible was the panic that I felt. Impossible to explain in words. It is a visceral fear that I have never felt in my life before. I ended up spinning and running out of the woods without daring to return. I got in the car and I put my foot on the accelerator. Back home, not daring to tell my companion the fear that I just felt, I simply asked him if he had seen a boar sleeping, sitting upright. Of course, he laughed in my face. During the day, I decided to return to the scene, and I cautiously advanced by the car. I was in the car and I drove up the trail. I leaned over to see if I could spot the stump, and the stump was gone. From that day, I did not dare to go back into the deep forest, and if I went back to pick mushrooms, it was for just a few metres from the car. About a year ago, I saw Nuri, a TV show about dogman and myth and reality, and that's where I was able to put a name to what I saw. I'm sure he was a dogman. Is there another animal that would sleep squatting like a human being? I have never been able to return to that forest until April, when I made the observations of the creature I saw with my friend and I told you about. In the meantime, I'd learned the dogman's story, that people were seeing them and that they could be dangerous. In April, when it happened, I was with my friend. My friend's a medium, and she can see and experience the dead. So to answer one of your questions, Deborah, I think if there was a connection, it's with her, not me. Because since I've known her, I've started to see some weird things on my lot in front of my house, with my camera at night. My little dog Leo is also seeing and reacting to things I do not see with the naked eye. When he growls, I take a picture. And I take the picture when it's dark. There are orbs and coloured tubes and shapes that move on the images. As far as the dogman is concerned, it's a very real creature. This story disturbs me, she said. I really want to know more about it, but I'm scared to go back. Yet at no time did he show any aggression towards us. He could have pounced on us without a problem if he wanted to. He was moving fast with long strides and he covered ground quickly. I know that I will return to this forest despite my fear, but I will not go alone. My friend went back to her home in the north of France. When she was face to face with this creature, a small inner voice pushed her to go into the woods with it. But the survival instinct took over. Unfortunately, she didn't follow. My friend told me she remembered a past life experience where she was hunted in the forest by humans. She had 2 wolves that accompanied her, a white one and a black one, and they protected her. When she was captured as a witch, the people killed the wolf in front of her cruelly. Now, I have to be honest, it worries me that the dog-like creature wanted Evie and a friend to follow it into the woods. I hear more and more often reports of people disappearing into the woods or vanishing after a walk. The newspapers are full of reports of unknown animal attacks, animal mutilations, and thousands of missing in every country, every day. It worries me that the phenomenon moved to Evie's home after the second event. The fact that Leo the dog can see and experience something around the home that Evie cannot see is very worrying. I don't think it's a good idea to return to this forest alone or to interact with this dogman in any way. But I'm not Evie, and she has to make her own mind up about that. The feeling I get from this is not one of benevolence. Evie went on to explain the phenomenon at home was becoming more frequent, and she went on to explain, last evening, and again this morning in the street, I heard something around me. I could hear it, but not see it. It was as if it was whistling or whispering, pardon me, but somebody was around me. It was kind of psh, psh. Leo, my little dog, barks furiously at night. A few days ago, I saw something not easy to describe. I saw something vaporous pass on my right in the kitchen. It was a round form, and it was made of light, and it was brown in colour. Now, normally, I'm the first person to try and see the positive with these situations. And although I do still feel that way, I am starting to notice a more worrying pattern. I would not be being honest if I did not raise this point with you. I am seeing a pattern of people who see the canine creatures and they are tempted or lured further into the woodland. Then, as curiosity peaks, activity starts at home. It's been the same for me. So I'm talking from personal experience. First, it's lights or raps on the walls or windows, and dark shapes in the corner of your eye, audible growls and howls and grunts, pets being disturbed or scared, and feelings of being observed in the house, figures looking around doorways and peeping. And it would seem, as you accept each level of phenomena, the activity increases. Many experiencers see dark figures around the bed, as do I. They have terrifying and lucid dreams. I wake up most nights fighting something I cannot see, leaving you sleep deprived and in a state of confusion. It can have a real effect on your mental health. I don't know the answer on how to stop this. I do know, however, it does need to be raised so people know what's happening out there, which enables them then to make informed choices. Myself and Evie started to look at some of the reports not too far away from Evie's woods. I spoke with Evie yesterday and asked her to be careful when she's out in the forest. She gave me an update on what's happened over the last few months. She said the dogman's still in the forest. Last week I returned with a friend and we spotted a dark silhouette in the distance down the aisle. This silhouette crossed the alley and came back and appeared again. And the alley and the aisle, she means the track. Also, Leo, my little dog, is with us. I turned around and just went the other way. It was not an illusion, Deborah, or the trick of an eye. There really is something out there. When we got about 20 metres from the car, at the same time, we both noticed a sudden change of atmosphere. When we got further in, the birds went silent, and then we heard the sound of air rushing through the tree branches. My friend and I, we looked at each other, and we were both surprised. Still, I should have known better. My friend was talking a lot, and I didn't notice the silence as I normally would. I wonder if he noticed us. I think he did. Yesterday I went back again, but I felt it was not a good idea to go in. Everything felt wrong, and I got back in the car. It is surprising, Deborah, when you look at the treetops on both sides of the road and they are all still, except for one, which moves almost like a signal when nothing else is moving. This has happened more than once for Eva, and I asked her to keep an eye on Leo when she was out, as he can clearly see something, or he would not growl and tug at the lead to be taken inside. Evie explained, once, when we were out, Leo started growling and pulling on his leash to leave. He was pulling in the direction of the car. He stopped again on the road near the car, as if something was following us. He turned around and he growled again, and he wanted to get in the car. It was the first time that he did that, and we had heard something. Leo and me heard bangs on the trees, and they were coming from the driveway. Evie wanted me to share this advice with you all. She said there are 3 signs that may suggest the presence of a dogman. 1 is the total silence in the woods that may seem abnormal, especially when you're in a thick forest. It happens quickly and without warning. 2nd is a feeling of uneasiness, a feeling of being watched or stalked as you walk the trails. 3 is a feeling of sudden fear without reason, an accelerating heartbeat, and a feeling that you need to run. And I would add the impression that nature is frozen, that nothing around you is moving. If you feel any of those strange circumstances, just move yourself away. It's not worth taking a chance, is it? So Evie set about looking in newspapers and online for any account that would help to explain what she saw that day. And it didn't take long to find them. Reported in the local papers was a report from a local police and a call centre operator in Bois last night shortly after 1 a.m. received a disturbing call, stated the Central Police. They made this statement: One of our operators in the emergency call centre was contacted by a motorist who tells us he saw a werewolf-like creature run across the road in the town of Prunières-en-Solange. Despite the rapid intervention of the gendarmes, they did not manage to stop or catch him. According to the first elements of the investigation, he could have resumed his human form and walked off into the night. Now that's their words, not mine. A family dog returns home with a human head. And this is in Agen in France, October 2019. At the end of October, La Dépêche News reported that a golden retriever belonging to a family living near Agen returned with a human head in its mouth after leaving the home for its daily wander. The dog must have detached the skull from the decomposing body to play with and returned to the home with the human head in its mouth. Investigators made a formal statement and explained, "This 40-something man died at the place where he was found by the gendarmes without his head. There are no suspicious circumstances reported." In March 1952, pardon me, a mysterious animal was reported close to the village of Cantal. Some residents of the village who were driving at night saw on several occasions a hairy and black-coloured animal. It was described as rather big and that it was standing upright on two legs like a man. Large prints were also found by a number of the villagers around the area of the sighting reports. It's supposed by authorities that the creature being seen could be a brown bear that would wander only at night to look for food. Even though it's been many hundreds of years since bears frequented this area of Europe, any native bears would have been hunted out centuries ago. There are, however, frequent reports of wolves and wolf-like creatures in the area. The Ventimiglia giants, I hope I've said that right, Ventimiglia giants. They are said to be a species of large hairy hominids that stand over 6.5 feet tall. They became well known after a large number of sightings in the Ventimiglia area in the 1990s, particularly in the years 96 and 97. In one case, the creatures were seen together in the forest, and in another case, a short, thick-necked creature was described by a witness. Only a few miles away, another report of an upright giant was also made. It was described as a cross between a man and a gorilla. A Swiss music producer is reported to have seen a strange human-like figure twice. Luckily, on one occasion, he was not alone when he saw the creature. The first sighting was at Silza, near the French border, and that was in December 96. The men saw the strange ape-like creature at night, and they were travelling in a car driven by a musician who was one of his friends. The musician's name was Bruno Chili. Bruno said he saw a giant being that was more than 2 meters in height, and it was moving between the trees. The creature they saw looked like a cross between a man and a gorilla. A second sighting occurred in September of 97 at 4:30 a.m. The gentleman could not sleep, and he was outdoors just wandering around when he saw 3 strange beings on his property. A Yeti in Chartreuse, 1976. A witness made this report, and I only have my word to give you, but this story is true. We were travelling in a party of 6, one of which was my brother. At this time, I practised cave exploring and mountain climbing, and it was the month of April during the Easter vacation. We went as high as possible by car, and then we continued in by foot until we made it to the refuge hut. Since it was early in the season, there was still plenty of snow, and we were the only ones there. We brought some wood with us to make a campfire next to the hut door, and after a short walk, we went to bed. The door, however, did not close correctly, so we blocked it shut with our shoes. The weather was calm, and suddenly, in the middle of the night, the door flew open, throwing our shoes across the room. From my sleeping bag, I found myself less than 2 metres from a fantastic being. He stood in the doorway, covered with long hair all over his body. I estimated his height to be about 2 metres tall. I could see him clearly, thanks to the campfire near the door. Now my friend saw him as well, and we all screamed with fear. Apparently frightened, the ape man that they described escaped in silence. I did not know any particular odour or anything like that, he said. We closed the door, and then somehow we went back to sleep. The next morning, we were still so shocked that we didn't even look for tracks in the snow. We packed up and left. I didn't know at this time that wild men have already been sighted in the Alps. Now, after seeing your site, I'm certain that I've seen the equivalent of a yeti. And we must not forget the unfortunate case of a 6-month pregnant woman who was mauled to death by a pack of dogs as she walked through the woods in the Retz area of France not so long ago. Although DNA was taken from her at the scene, no update on the case and no police report has stated what dogs attacked the lady. Her partner, who arrived on the scene to find her body, stated he saw a large pack of canines that looked like German shepherds roaming the woods close to where she lay. Some of the bites occurred while she was still alive, while horridly some happened after she died. Local newspaper L'Union reported. Now, as there are no real borders between the countries of Europe, theoretically, any animal or creature would be able to move from country to country with ease. You could go from the tip of France to the top of Finland, all the way across Russia into Asia. It's far more logical that we would be getting these reports from Europe than England, in all honesty, because we are an island surrounded by sea. Most of Europe can be crossed, and we do know that there are reports in the Baltic states. We know there are reports in Russia. There are reports in Finland, Norway, Sweden, France, as we see here. So wherever you kind of stick a pin in the map in Europe, you're going to find a werewolf or dogman account or a giant ape. They don't call the Alps the Valley of the Neanderthals for no reason. There is a tale of some red-haired giants that lived within the Alps, and it was a young gentleman who was looking for work who made the report, and he said that they were what he described as red-headed Neanderthals. Now, there's also the Varsland wolf, and that's in 2000, so not that long ago. Now, while farmers could never say whether the Varsland wolf was actually a wolf or a dog, the creature was blamed for killing 35 sheep and dozens of chickens before vanishing as suddenly as it appeared. Another report said it had a big hairy body and was bipedal. It was the summer of 1968, and a man riding a motorbike said that he had passed Holstrick when he described an animal with a big body that was hairy, bipedal, and had long arms. The creature crossed the road in front of him with a weary appearance. I'm not really sure what that means. Some days later, there was another sighting by a group of boys that claimed to have met a huge hairy being that was drinking from the pond, and that was June of 1969. Now, I am often accused of always erring on the side of positivity, and I will put my hands up to that when it comes to the creature encounters. I'm human. I also have a bias, and I can only go off my own interactions and how things have played out for me. But I am also a realist. Each day I am bombarded with emails and messages stating how I am not presenting a fair picture of what is really happening out there in the wilds. I don't want to influence anyone in any way. And I do understand how many people think I am naive in my thinking, and I wouldn't disagree with that. It's made me very cautious when advising people. I don't want anyone being hurt or harmed because of my advice. So I urge anyone to weigh up the pros and cons of the situation before putting yourselves in a position of danger. Evie, like myself, often visits the woods to enjoy nature or to walk the dog, sometimes alone and sometimes with a companion. She's done so for as long as she can remember, as many of us have. She knows what works for her and when to abort the visit. But due to the constant pressure placed upon me to give a fairer picture, I no longer have confidence that I'm doing the right thing. So this last few months, I've had a real look at some of the scarier aspects of what has been presented to me as warnings or worrying signs. I have to say, after listening to Evie's experience and the many cases of people being followed back home, I would not advise people to walk the woods alone, especially if they feel watched or stalked. We do not know the intent of the creatures that we witness. It may be a case of me fearing the unknown, but I think we have to take into consideration that we know so little about the canine creatures or the ape-like beings. The canine creatures are often said to frequent old and new burial grounds. They're described as quick-moving, average height of 7 feet, sometimes around 700 pounds in weight, with the ability, it would seem, to shapeshift. We are dealing with the unknown, and it is better to err on the side of caution until we are certain of the threat level. We have no idea what these creatures are and where they come from, whether they're controlled or acting by their own volition. None of us know that. It's theory, but I'm trying to be as honest with you as I can. I find the fact these creatures seem to follow some people home worrying. And it's happened to me. And for all I'm used to it and feel no fear, it's not like that for everybody. So I would be selfish to ask you to do the same. I don't know the answer to any of this, but I am hoping over time to work it out. For now, if what your experience feels negative or intrusive, it's a situation you should back away from. Using a better safe than sorry approach may be best. I myself have been followed home. I've found prints leading up to the back fence across the swampy area. I've heard bangs and experienced the rushing energy that you can feel move past you very quickly. I have dark figures in the home. I have them around my bed and in the woods when I'm out. I've seen a tall canine figure very close to me who just watches silently. Am I in danger, even though nothing's ever harmed me? I don't say this to be dramatic. I say it because people advise me that this is the case. I don't have answers as I'm only a witness. I'm not an expert. I don't know everything. I only know what happened to me. I'm still trying to work out my own situation whilst trying to help hundreds of other people. On the flip side, I know you are adults and you would not knowingly put yourself in danger. Yet the nagging voice in the back of my head tells me I need to raise this point with you all. You need all the options and theories so you can make a well-informed decision on your own experience and how that affects you as a person. The only way we can do this is to hear all of the information available. Many of the people advising me have refused to be taped or to appear on camera, so it leaves me and Evie with the dilemma but no solution. I believe there are people out there who can help and advise us, and I urge you to get in touch with me to share the information that you have. If you know why people are being followed home, or you have any advice on this subject, please get in touch. I would like to be able to advise either Evie and the other witnesses correctly on what to do and not to do in the situation. I am only one voice, and the responsibility of giving you my best advice is one that weighs heavily on me. But of course, you must do what you feel is right in the situation you find yourself in. Let someone know where you're going and for how long. Leave any area that feels off to you. If you feel watched or stalked, head to populated areas or back to the car. Take the family dog with you and watch the dog's reaction. We've heard it time and time again that the dog reacts first, or that the dog is aware of something concealed within the bushes and the shrubs. Over the coming months, I would ideally like to bring as many people forward who've experienced anything like this at home or in their local woods, who may have some answers for us. I see Mike return to his area over and over with no harm done. But others are chased from the woods. They feel threatened or even hunted. Some have had the cars shaken. And as we say, some people have been followed back home. So being realistic, I have to say to you that we really do need to take those points on board. So that's the best advice that I can give. Keep yourself safe when you're out there. If you don't agree with what I said, that's absolutely fine, and you have to go with your gut feeling. You have to go with that. I understand that that's your truth, and it wouldn't offend me or upset me in any way. I have spent a number of years thinking that everything was hunky-dory through rose-coloured glasses. But as I say, I am a realist, and I do listen to the advice that people give me. And like Eva, I also scroll through the internet looking for stories that come up. I have Google alerts set for it, so I don't miss anything. And I am noticing a pattern of strange deaths that have been blamed on unknown animals, even when DNA's been available. No follow-up report, nothing like that. All marked as no suspicious circumstances. There was a young lad only 2 weeks ago, same thing in America. So just, you know, I think what I'm saying is err on the side of caution until we can look more into this and get some answers. We have no idea what we're dealing with. We presume that they are Bigfoot, and we presume that they are dogmen, but we don't know legitimately 100% what they are, and we don't know who's behind them, whether they're being controlled. We don't know any of that, but those theories are out there. Some people see them as killing machines. They are there simply to harvest humans, and it would be wrong of me to not give you that information. The problem I have is I don't know enough about that information to give it to you correctly, but I think people out there will, and I think people out there will instantly recognise what I'm talking about. And what I'm hoping is they will talk to me while I tape them, and then I can put that out there and share that information with you all. So, not meaning to upset anyone. Strange one, I know. But, you know, Friday the 13th on its way, and the new moon won't be too far. And I'm sure we will start getting some sighting reports now as we move into March, because things usually pick up again around that time. Speaking of Friday the 13th, next week I am going to be going out to meet a gentleman who's been working on the ley lines, and we found an area here in the northwest where 2 ley lines cross, and we have a number of creature reports around that ley line. So I'm going to go up there with him, and we'll do some filming, and I'll pop that up for you. I will also be adding the conference that we had at the weekend in Hull. I'm just waiting for Megan to pop it over to me, and as soon as she does, I will pop it up. And I would like to say hi to Rachel and Romany. I hope you're listening. Hello, Romany. Sorry that I missed you at the weekend, but I am sure the universe will bring us together at some point. So, wishing you all good night. Hope you have a lovely weekend. Goodbye.